Mike Florio and Pablo Torre, make sure it's linked in the description. Why it's about an hour long. They're talking about this document in this in a arbiters meeting, and they're going on the fact that the NFL and the management council and all 32 teams have been caught discussing, colluding, figuring out a play to suppress wages by the players. After Deshaun Watson's contract, they all got together and said, this shall not happen.
They thought nobody was watching. They thought their secret meetings would stay buried forever. But what if I told you that Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback who led the nation with a 74% completion percentage and threw for over 4,000 yards, didn't just fall to the 5th round? What if I told you he was deliberately sacrificed as part of a calculated NFL conspiracy that goes deeper than you could ever imagine? While you were watching the draft wondering how a projected first-rounder could slide 144 picks, the league's puppet masters were pulling strings behind closed doors, making examples out of players who dared to threaten their iron grip on wages. And now, thanks to leaked arbitration documents, we finally have the smoking gun that proves everything. Listen up, because what I'm about to tell you is going to change how you look at the NFL forever. You think the draft is about talent? You think it's about who can throw the prettiest spiral or who ran the fastest 40? Nah, man. The draft is about control. And Shedeur Sanders just became the latest casualty in the NFL's war against player empowerment. Let's start with the facts that should have every football fan asking questions. Shedeur Sanders finished his college career with ridiculous numbers. We're talking about a quarterback who completed 74% of his passes, threw for 4,134 yards, and had 37 touchdowns to just 10 interceptions in his final season at Colorado. According to ESPN's draft projections, this kid was supposed to go in the first 2 rounds, minimum. Sports Illustrated had him as a potential top 15 pick. But here's where it gets crazy. Sanders didn't just slip a few spots. He didn't fall to the late 1st round, or even the 2nd round. This man fell all the way to pick 144, taken by the Cleveland Browns in the 5th round. That's not a draft slide. That's a draft execution. You want to know how much money that cost him? According to Spotrac's rookie scale calculations, the difference between being picked 15th overall versus 144th overall is approximately $18.20 million over 4 years. Let that sink in for a second. $18 million. That's not pocket change. That's generational wealth that just vanished into thin air.
In terms of what the owners were talking about, behind the closed doors, when it comes to race, when it comes to CTE, when it comes to emails, thousands of emails from the NFL. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at it. I'm like, bro, did nobody see this? Did nobody pick this up? And before I came back, I told you, this isn't the first time. They've been colluding since Jump Street. When Colin Kaepernick started the whole Neo thing, the management council figured out a way to get that done too. By the way, Colin Kaepernick sued the NFL and won for being blackballed. Him and Eric Reed won. It's documented. Sued and won. The NFL immediately in the management council, in order to smooth things over, went to Jay-Z, said, listen, I need you to come in and do this halftime thing. The music popping, get everybody back on board. This is after George Floyd. After George Floyd. When it was no longer, it was faux pas to start telling people that they couldn't kneel because of police brutality, because George Floyd changed the world. And they needed to figure out what they were going to do about that. They paid Colin Kaepernick so Discovery wouldn't come back. They paid Eric Reed so Discovery would not come back. And let me tell you this too. The NFL is actively subverting wages. When it comes to Shedeur Sanders, and I hear these documents and I see these documents, When somebody says Shedeur Sanders fell to the 5th round, really? Shedeur Sanders was a number 2 pick, somebody that people projected in the 1st round. He slides to the 5th round. I also think it's very funny that people can calculate and know just how much money he lost. I think it's funny that people understand, oh, you got past how many?
Now here's where this story gets absolutely wild. Mike Florio and Pablo Torre just dropped a bombshell that should have every sports fan's head spinning. They're talking about arbitration documents that expose something the NFL never wanted you to see. Concrete evidence of collusion among all 32 teams. These aren't rumors. These aren't conspiracy theories. These are legal documents from an arbiters meeting that show the NFL Management Council and all 32 teams got together the same day Deshaun Watson signed his fully guaranteed contract and said, "This shall not happen again." Think about that for a moment. The same day Watson got his bag, every single NFL owner and executive was already plotting to make sure no other player would ever see that kind of money again. They didn't even wait 24 hours. They immediately started scheming on how to suppress wages across the league. But this isn't just about Deshaun Watson's contract. Oh no, this goes way deeper than that. Let's connect some dots that'll blow your mind. Remember Lamar Jackson? 2-time NFL MVP, in his prime, requesting a trade because the Ravens wouldn't give him a fully guaranteed deal. According to NFL Network reports, Jackson wanted the same type of contract Watson got. And guess what happened? Radio silence. Not a single team. Not the Falcons who needed a quarterback, not the Dolphins who had the cap space. Nobody called You're telling me that a 2-time MVP in his prime hits the trade market and 31 teams just aren't interested? That's not how free markets work, people. That's how rigged markets work. And don't even get me started on Kyler Murray. According to the leaked information, Murray was supposed to get a massive extension, but suddenly there were all these mysterious concerns about his work ethic, his study habits, his dedication. Where did all these stories come from? Who was pushing this narrative? The league was sending a message. You want guaranteed money? We'll destroy your reputation first. So where does Shedeur Sanders fit into all this? Here's where it gets diabolical. The Cleveland Browns, the same team that got punished by the league for giving Watson that guaranteed contract, they extensively scouted Sanders. They met with him multiple times during the pre-draft process. They flew coaches out to see him work out. Now ask yourself this. Why would you extensively scout a player you think is a 5th-round pick? Why would you waste resources, time, and money evaluating someone you believe has 5th-round talent? That doesn't make sense unless you already knew he was going to be available in the 5th round. According to the source breaking down this conspiracy, the league essentially told every team, we're going to make an example out of Sanders. He's going to slide not to the 2nd round, not to the 3rd, not to the 4th, all the way to the 5th. And we're going to let Cleveland get him at a discount price. Think about the psychology of this move. Cleveland gets publicly humiliated for the Watson contract, pays the price with sanctions and a quarterback who barely plays, but then they get rewarded with a potential franchise quarterback for pennies on the dollar. It's like the league saying, you took your punishment like good little soldiers, so here's your consolation prize. Here's something else that'll make you think twice about everything you know about the NFL draft process. The source reveals that the NFL Combine isn't really where players rise and fall. It's where deals get made. It's where the puppet masters decide who goes where. The anonymous nature of draft evaluations, the mysterious character concerns that pop up out of nowhere, the sudden drops in draft stock. None of this is accidental. According to industry insiders quoted in the documents, this is all orchestrated theater designed to maintain the illusion of competitive evaluation while the real decisions are made in smoke-filled rooms. And let's be real about something else. The NFL has already admitted to some absolutely disgusting practices. They've admitted to racial norming in CTE settlements, essentially saying African American players start at a cognitive disadvantage. They've admitted to asking inappropriate, sexual, and racial questions at the combine. They've admitted to colluding before. Colin Kaepernick sued them for blackballing and WON.SO when someone tells you the NFL wouldn't conspire to control draft outcomes and suppress wages. Just remember, they've already been caught doing worse. Let's talk numbers for a second, because this is where the conspiracy gets really sophisticated. If Shedeur Sanders develops into a franchise quarterback, and his college numbers suggest he absolutely could, Cleveland just got a potential $200+ million player for about $3.8 million over 4 years. That's not just good value, that's astronomical value. But here's the kicker. If Sanders balls out, it completely erases the Watson contract disaster. Cleveland looks like geniuses instead of the laughingstock they became after that trade. The narrative completely flips. And what does the league get out of this? They get to point to Sanders as an example of their competitive balance working. They get to say, see, sometimes great players fall in the draft and smart teams can't find value. The system works. But that's not what happened here. What happened is market manipulation on a scale that would make Wall Street blush. This Sanders situation is just the tip of the iceberg. According to recent reports from The Athletic, quarterback contract negotiations across the league have become increasingly contentious, with teams suddenly finding creative ways to avoid guaranteed money. The Cincinnati Bengals are reportedly trying to get their first-round pick to sign a contract with no injury guarantees, language that, according to NFL agents, no other team is using. Why are the Bengals being different? Because the league is testing new ways to limit guaranteed money across all positions. Joe Burrow, despite being one of the best young quarterbacks in the league, had to fight tooth and nail for his extension. Tua Tagovailoa's contract negotiations dragged on forever with mysterious concerns about his durability. Justin Herbert's deal took months longer than anyone expected. Seeing a pattern yet? Here's something else that should make you suspicious. How quickly the media narrative around Sanders' draft slide was accepted and normalized. Instead of asking hard questions about how a 74% completion percentage quarterback falls to the 5th round, most analysts just shrugged and said, well, that's how the draft goes sometimes, really? That's how the draft goes? A player with elite college production, who interviewed well, who had no character concerns, who tested well physically. He just randomly falls 100+ picks because the draft is unpredictable. The source breaking this story mentions getting calls from NFL officials and Players Association representatives after exposing previous league conspiracies. These people don't want the truth getting out because the truth is bad for business. And let's be honest about something. When you control billions of dollars in revenue, you have the power to control narratives. You have the power to plant stories, shape opinions, and make people believe whatever version of reality serves your interests. This isn't the first time the NFL has been caught colluding, and it won't be the last. The Colin Kaepernick situation showed us exactly how this league operates when players step out of line. Eric Reed, a Pro Bowl safety in his prime, couldn't find a job for months because he dared to kneel during the national anthem. The league paid both Kaepernick and Reed settlements to make their lawsuits go away. But here's the key detail. They paid specifically to avoid discovery. They didn't want lawyers digging through their emails, their meeting notes, their private communications. They paid millions to keep their dirty laundry buried. What do you think discovery would have revealed? What conversations were they so desperate to hide that they'd rather pay 8-figure settlements than let the truth come out? So what does all this mean for the future of the NFL? It means we're watching a league that's more concerned with controlling labor costs than actual competition. It means draft evaluations are theater, free agency is manipulated, and player empowerment is being systematically dismantled. Shedeur Sanders isn't just a 5th-round pick who fell in the draft. He's a message. He's the league telling every future quarterback, this is what happens when the market gets too hot. This is what happens when players start demanding too much guaranteed money. We'll make examples out of whoever we need to maintain control. But here's the thing about the truth. It has a way of coming out eventually. These arbitration documents are just the beginning. When lawyers start demanding discovery in collusion lawsuits, when judges start ordering the NFL to turn over communications, when the paper trail gets exposed, we're going to see just how deep this rabbit hole goes. The NFL has already admitted to racial discrimination, sexual harassment at the combine, CTE cover-ups, and previous collusion efforts. They've shown us exactly who they are. We just need to start believing them. So the next time you watch the draft, the next time you see a surprising fall or a shocking rise, ask yourself, is this really about talent evaluation, Or is this about something else entirely? When you see contract negotiations drag on forever, when you see mysterious character concerns pop up out of nowhere, when you see elite players suddenly lose their market, remember Shedeur Sanders. Remember that sometimes the game behind. The game is more important than the game itself. The NFL wants you to believe in the purity of competition, the meritocracy of talent evaluation, the fairness of free market negotiations. But the evidence is right there in black and white. This league is about control, manipulation, and keeping players in their place. Shedeur Sanders was sacrificed on the altar of that control. The question is, who's next? The NFL just showed us their hand, and it's uglier than we ever imagined. From collusion documents to draft manipulation, from wage suppression to media control, this league operates more like a cartel than a competitive sports organization. Shedeur Sanders' fall to the fifth round wasn't bad luck or poor evaluation. It was a calculated move in a game most fans don't even know is being played. The truth is out there, buried in arbitration documents and hidden in executive meeting notes. But piece by piece, the full picture is emerging. And when it does, it's going to change everything we thought we knew about America's favorite sport. What do you think? Are we seeing the tip of the iceberg of NFL corruption? Or is this just business as usual in professional sports? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this opened your eyes to what's really happening behind the scenes, make sure to subscribe because we're just getting started exposing the truth about the league's dirty secrets.